kids. I decided to do some fishing with Jan today, and I realized I forgot to put together an ACT tutorial for you. I then got a great idea. Hey, oh my God, why don't we catch 2 fish with 1 hook and do both? So let's jump right in. Okay, kids, let's take a look at tense shift. Verbs in a sentence should reflect time sequence. If events represented by the verbs occurred at the same time, the verbs should have the same tense. Let's take a look at some examples. I spilled coffee in my car as I drove quickly around the corner. Both of these events happened in the past tense, and notice the verbs reflect that. I spilled coffee in my car as I drove quickly around the corner. The tenses are the same. This next example, we see the verbs showing present tense. Notice how they're the same. As I walk into the room, I throw my keys onto the table. Take a look at the verbs. Both of them are in the present tense. Our final example here will show events that are going to happen in the future. I will get to the mall any way I can, and then I will buy the shoes. Both events are happening in the future. We need to keep the tense the same. I will get to the mall any way I can, and then I will buy the shoes. Sometimes tense shifts are acceptable. Mixing tenses is acceptable when the verbs represent events that happened at different times. Look at these examples. Jean will march in the parade tomorrow, so she is practicing now. Okay, here we have a mix of the present and future tense. She is practicing now for something that will happen tomorrow. Take a look at this example. Ben is fixing the vase he broke last week. Ben is fixing something now that broke last week. Okay, here the tense shift is acceptable. And a final example, I will always love dogs because of the years I spent with my dog Nougat. I will always. Okay, something that's something that will be happening in the future because of something that happened in the past. I will always love dogs because of the years I spent with my dog Nougat. So as you can see here, tense shifts are acceptable when events happen at different times. You want to try to avoid faulty tense shifts. Faulty shift between present tense and past tense is a common error. Let's take a look at some of these examples. She ran home and eat dinner. It's pretty obvious. It doesn't sound correct. She ran home is in the past, and eat dinner is in the present. It seems that this sentence describes something that happened in the past, but it's not true. She ran home and ate dinner. In this particular sentence, it makes more sense to have both events happen in the past. Here's another one. Dave saves money for the game, and he saved money for souvenirs. These events that are happening, they're supposed to happen at the same time. You can fix it by either putting them both in the present or both in the past, but you can't mix them in the sentence. Take a look. Dave saves money for the game, and he saves money for souvenirs. Both those things are happening in the present. Or Dave saved money for the game, and he saved money for the souvenirs. Now both of the events are happening in the past. Another example. Just as Pam was putting her book bag, her dog runs past her. These events that are presented are supposed to happen at the same time. And once again, they can either happen in the present, or they can happen in the past, but we can't have them mixed. Just as Pam was putting her book bag, her dog ran past her. Okay, that's a correct way of doing it. You can also fix it by putting it in the present tense. Just as Pam is putting away her book bag, her dog runs past her. Hey kids, we just caught a real big one here. Isn't ACT practice fun? Man, I'll tell you, it's easy to get hooked on it. Well, while we wrestle this fish in, you should definitely look at some more examples. So one of the most important words to keep in mind here is consistency. All right, as we have seen, verbs need to be consistent. And the basic consistency rule regarding verbs is that verbs should remain consistent in tense or form throughout a sentence. And as you can see on this slide, there are some more examples of incorrect and correct sentences. Maria studies science and played lacrosse. Obviously, two different tenses. You fix it by saying Maria studies science and plays lacrosse. Of course, in those situations where you do have a shift in tense in the sentence, keep in mind that this kind of construction is only possible if the verbs are in different clauses. All right, that's another hint when you do feel that it's appropriate for a shift in tense. Take a look here. Justin bought a Honda and saves money on gas. Justin bought a Honda so that he can save money on gas. The first sentence is incorrect since bought and saves are in different tenses but the same clause. The second sentence, on the other hand, is correct. The tense shift takes place in a different clause and the two verbs are occurring at different times. Justin bought the car in the past, but he can save money on gas in the present. So keep that rule in mind. It's very important. If you are, or if you do need to use a shift in tense, remember there has to be two separate clauses. To practice examining appropriate shifts in tense, here are a few sentences for you to look at. Some of these sentences are correct and some of them are incorrect. For the sentences that are correct, please mark it with a simple C, and those sentences that are incorrect, please write a change that you feel would be appropriate. Now it's time to have some fun. These are how this type of question will look on the ACT. Let's go through a few examples before you try some yourself. Last year, Will did extra jobs and saves the money. All right, so there's our sentence. We have the underlined portion. Now we have to decide whether it's correct, or if it is not correct, how to fix it. For number one, the answer is going to be C. Both of those things, working and saving, happened last year, so the verb should be in the past tense. And that is why C is the correct answer. Let's take a look at number two. Now, he is buying a car and planned a trip. Both of these events are happening right now. Therefore, both should be in the present tense. So for this one, we would pick G. Number 3, since he made enough money last year, he will take his brother with him when he goes. For number 3, no change is necessary. An event that happened in the past, saving money, is allowing him to take his brother with him in the future on the trip. Therefore, made enough money is past tense, and he will take is future tense. Also notice how there are 2 separate clauses in this sentence that has a shift in tense. Now it's time to try some on your own. Let's find out how you did. Number 1. Since the time frame is set in the past for this sentence, last week, the verb must be in the past tense, so the answer is C.
That wasn't a one-sided.
Preparations began last week, so the verb must be past tense. Therefore, the answer is G. Number 3 is correct. There's no change necessary. Number 4, the time is now. So that indicates the verb must be present. Therefore, the answer is G. For number 5, the time is the future. Tomorrow gives us a hint as to when the action is taking place. So the verb must be future in both cases. So the answer for number 5 is D. Hey kids. While we get this thing ready to make fish sticks for your lunch, let's take a look at subject and verb agreement. I've been hearing a lot of great things about how you've been doing with this ACT practice. Let me know how you do with subject-verb agreement. You've already read about singular and plural nouns, pronouns, and verbs. All this leads up to subject-verb agreement, a topic frequently tested on the ACT. The subject and verb of a sentence must agree in number. Singular subjects take singular verbs. Plural subjects take plural verbs. Here are some examples. Jack wants to go to the library after school. Here we have Jack. It is a singular form, and we need a singular form of the verb wants. Here's an example of a plural form. Lisa and Sally want to go to the park after school. Lisa and Sally are plural. Then we need the plural form, which is want. Mr. Pinzone's ACT video helps me prepare for the test. Here we have video, which is singular, and of course, helps is also a singular form. Mr. Pinzone's ACT videos help me prepare for the test. Videos is plural. The plural form is help. The team meets every Saturday morning to watch game film. The team, which is singular, will have a singular form, meets. The team members meet every Saturday afternoon. Members is plural, so you need a plural form, which is meet. This last example is worth noting. Team. Even though the word team, in a sense, means multiple people. It takes multiple people to make up a team. But notice that even though there might be multiple people on a team, the word itself is still singular, which means that the verb must be singular. And that's what separates it from the last one here, the team members. All right, now it's members that we're looking at, and of course, that is plural, so we need a plural form, which is meet. Here are some examples that are both incorrect and correct. Chad want to get to the soccer game on time. Obviously, this is incorrect. Chad is a singular noun, so it needs a singular verb. Chad wants to get to the soccer game on time. The players wants to do their best in the game. Players is plural. You need the plural form of want. The players want to do their best in the game. Bob and Liz referees the game. Plural subject of Bob and Liz takes the plural verb referee. Here's one that's interesting. Everyone are at the door. So this singular subject, everyone, is what is called an indefinite pronoun. Words such as everyone and someone are indefinite pronouns, and they are always singular. You would fix that one by saying everyone is at the door. Notice, like an earlier example with team, even though this is a pronoun, everyone, we know there's more than one person, obviously. But even though that is the case, the word itself is still regarded as singular. Where things can become tricky is if it's hard to locate where the subject and the verb are. They'll try to trick you. So in these situations where you may be unsure, let's look at some ways where we can easily locate the subject and the verb. Let's take a look at this sentence. The practice test, which Matt took on Saturday, prepared him for the actual exam. Okay, so the verb is prepared, right? But what is the subject? Well, Saturday comes just before prepared. So let's, in our head, say, Saturday prepared her. Okay, Saturday prepared her. That's not right, because Saturday did not prepare her for the actual test. Let's try this now. Let's say, practice test prepared her. Now that sounds correct. The practice test prepared her for the actual test. Practice test, then, is the subject. Let's take a look at another example. Using the same strategy we used in the previous sentence, let's identify the subject and the verb. The employee with the most sales will win an award. All right, let's try this. Sales will win an award. Okay. Well, the sales themselves, I don't know if they can actually win an award, but let's try the employee. The employee will win an award. Now that makes a little more sense because the employee, a person, can win an award. So we've located the subject and the verb, and now we can move on. Here's how a subject-verb agreement sentence will look on the ACT. Let's take a look at number 1 here. Those are the horses Jan are riding this summer at camp. Okay. The subject of this sentence is not horses, because when we do our little strategy, when we say the horses are riding, that doesn't make any sense. But Jan is riding the horses does. So Jan is singular, so the verb must also be singular, and that's why B is the correct choice. Let's take a look at number 2. Jan and her friends rides every day. Jan and her friends is plural, therefore the verb must also be plural, and that would have us choose H for the correct answer. Okay, here's some for you to try on your own. Let's take a look at how you did. The subject, Chuck and Ann, is plural. Therefore, the verb, are, must also be plural. Therefore, the answer is B. Number 2, the subject, each, is singular, as in each one. So the verb must be singular as well, which is why we choose H. Number 3 is correct. There is no change necessary. The subject is plural, so the verb must be plural. For number 4 is H. And finally, number 5, the subject, flight, is singular, so the verb must also be singular. So for number 5, we choose D.
On this wall.